Greetings and salutations to all of you lovely, fluffy, non-fluffy, equally beautiful, and so special listeners out there. I am running a little behind on this episode, as you probably have gathered by now, but that's okay. There's been some reasons and developments for that, and one of them is that I have a cat right in my face. Hi, Archie. It's because I'm laying down while I record this. If I don't know if any of you have seen the comedy special from Burnham called Inside. It's where Welcome to the Internet originated. If you have not seen the whole special, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. But anyway, there's a scene in the special where Bo is essentially laying in bed, but he's laying on the floor. He's, got a blanket over him. He's got a microphone kind of propped up on the pillow, and he's just like talking. And it's it's one of my favorite scenes from the entire special. And that's kind of how I feel right now. I'm just laying down, and I have the microphone kind of next to me, and I'm just talking. So that's what this is, because I'm a very tired boy, and it seems like that's been like my function for this past week, is just perpetually tired, for a number of reasons. It has been mostly go and hardly rest, so I've been trying to do my best to seek respite where I can. It's not easy, but it is necessary when you can get it. So, I do have a quote that I want to read, and I normally do this at the end of the podcast, but I have a quote that I want to read that kind of struck me. It really did it filled Miller's Discord. It really did, like, I don't know, affect sort of my mood in a very positive way, um, the other day when I read this, and I want to share it with all of you because it really does show in a very simple way, how we can perceive others, and um, how we can go about our day without worry. So, assuming I can grab my phone, if Archie can stop standing on it. Thank you. Hi. Oh my gosh, Archie. He's licking my nose. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's licking my nose right now. Hi, Archie. Can I help you, Mister? You know how cats do like they rub up on things? He is rubbing up on my face right now. Yes, he loves Dad. I don't know if you can hear his purring. Are you purring, Archie? Is there anything you want to say? Hello. He's headbutting my face. I don't know what's so interesting, Archie, but you are standing on me. You're not light, right? You are a hefty boy. I think he's coming in around 7 pounds, maybe 8 pounds lately. So he is using me as a platform. So anyway, I'm going to try and read this to the best of my ability with this mongrel intruder being, a mongrel for a minute. So this is this is Marcus Aurelius, who I've quoted many times on this podcast. And he lays it out very simply, and I love it. And he basically just says, how much time he saves who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks. I'm going to read that again. Marcus says, how much time he saves who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks. So, in other words, he's saying that worrying about what other people think is a waste of time. And worrying about what they may think of you or how they perceive you is a waste of time. And how much time one saves just simply by not worrying about what other people think is productive. And I like that because even after all these years of reading these words or these types of words, and you know, realizing that I've been studying this stuff since I can remember, I still get in those thought patterns of worrying how other people see me and what other people think of me, right? So that in itself is sort of a nice little reminder that we can not only save a lot of time, but we can be more productive if we don't care what other people think. And I know what a lot of you are probably thinking, like, oh yeah, easier said than done. And true, I mean, to an extent, true. But the way that I see it and the way that I try to go about it personally, and this might help some of you out there, is I learned some time ago that every person that I come across, whether they are a close friend, a family member, or someone new that I meet, it doesn't matter. Every single person in my life has a view of me, a certain view of me, or a certain thought of me, or, well, views me a certain way. And it's different from anybody else. So anybody, like, there are no two people, I can guarantee there are no two people in this world who have an exact same viewpoint or a thought of you. Um, so I think I've used this example before, but I believe it was the Pursuit of Wonder YouTube channel, which is a really good YouTube channel. If you are interested, I can leave a link in the description if you're interested. They did a video laying out a scenario of a young girl who gets into a car accident, and she goes into a coma, and she gets amnesia, right? Basically gets amnesia. And I believe it's retrograde amnesia is where you can make new memories, but you can't remember old ones. If I'm, it's either retrograde or antrograde. I'm a little rusty on my psychology, so pardon me. But yeah, it's one of these styles of amnesia where you forget your past and you can only make new memories, right? Um, there's a scene in this scenario where she's talking to different people who are coming into her hospital room, and everybody tells her her name and how old she is and what happened. You got into a car accident. So those things are true. Those things track as far as being similar to how these people respond. But it's interesting because it goes through five different scenarios, five different examples of her asking these various individuals. Like, one of them is her mother, one of them is her father, one of them is one of her siblings, one of them is her uh, supposed partner, significant other, and then the last person is like almost a stranger, like the doctor, I think, is the last one. And she asks each of them the same question. What was I like? Who was I? How was I towards others? And what do people think of me? And to spare you the details of each answer, every single answer, all five answers from all five different individuals were all different. So one person said, you're very artsy. One person said, you're very kind. Another person said, you're very quiet. Another person said, you're very outgoing. And another person said, you're you're very kept to yourself. Whatever, the case. Like, all of those answers were different in some way. So, point being, every single person that's in your life that you know or have yet to meet or used to know has a vision of you, has an example in their mind of you when they think of the person that you are. And I'm willing to bet there are some similarities, but they're all different. No two people are going to have the exact same answer about you that you have about yourself, or that they have or have the same answer as another person. Excuse me. So, what's the point? If that's the case, if every person that you come across has differing answers to who you are and what they think of you, then how can we validate those answers? Well, the truth is, since each one is different, what truly matters is how you view yourself and what you think of yourself, right? Now, it's good to take those answers from different people and what they think of you as feedback, but only that and nothing more. Feedback. So if someone says, "Oh, I think you're kind of self-centered," then we can look at that and go, "Okay, well, I wonder why they would say that. Like, what is it about me that they may think that I am self-centered?" And it's good to have self-awareness and self-assessment with that. When you get negative feedback from somebody, and even if it's positive, it's good to have a healthy amount of conversation with yourself and wonder, okay, so why is it that, X person thinks Y of me, right? And it could be a simple answer, it could be kind of difficult. Um, for example, I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to, um, excuse me. I think laying down is causing me to have some have some throat tickle. But anyway, I'm not going to use any names. I'm not going to um, say anything that's incriminating. And when I say incriminating, I mean is going to usurp privacy from anybody. Okay. I had a conversation recently with a good friend of mine. And as a fact, this is someone who is a newer friend of mine. So I've known them for a little while, but it wasn't until recently that we, really started to get close and got to, communicating and talking more and such. So yeah, the relationship has been running its course very smoothly, right? That being said, we had a conversation recently, and they were telling me how they got some feedback from somebody that was somewhat negative, and it put them in something of a tailspin of just like, oh, why would this person think that? And how am I viewed by other people, and how is it that they would come up to this conclusion? And it just went on and on, right? And to spare you the details and the specifics, I will just say that it did put a very bad taste in their mouth from this other person who told them that, and it kind of got them in this headspace of, um, have I actually been what they say that I've been in a negative manner? And talking them through this and realizing something very obvious, that was the person who told them this just seems to be very jealous of them. And I don't know that for sure. I don't know who exactly it was who told them this, but yeah, I don't know this person at all, but it just the way that it came off, the way that it came off, the way that those comments were in a way backhanded, but the way that the comments were presented to my friend, it just sounded like this person had sort of a vendetta. They had some sort of an ulterior motive, something that just like really dug in them about my friend, and they just seemingly had to tell them what they really thought about them. And it's like, well, that's not a very good friend. That's not somebody who's, you know, um, that's not somebody who's going to build you up and instead makes backhanded comments. Yeah, just I sensed a lot of jealousy, and again, I don't know for sure, but that's how it came off to me. Just like, I think this person is jealous of you for being the kind of person that you are, and for being, so outgoing and kind and whatever. So, and all that to say, sort of a nice little segue into what I wanted to talk about overall is we don't always have to listen to that feedback. We don't always have to take that to heart. Okay. People's feedback can be wrong. As a matter of fact, I would be willing to gather that it is mostly wrong, right? So going back on the scenario that we talked about with having five different people tell you five different things about you, how can it really be trusted? Feedback, yes. Self-awareness, yes. But how much can that information be trusted? If we're really taking it to heart, why do we do that? Why do we take it to heart so vehemently? And it doesn't make any sense to me sometimes how people can give us feedback, positive or negative, and we take it to heart because, of course, we want to be good. We want to be seen as, you know, however we want to be seen by others. And
we want to, in a sense, prove ourselves to others. But the truth is, we don't always have to do that so hard. I think we sometimes we try too hard to prove ourselves or to prove our worth or to prove who we are. As a matter of when, in fact, all we really should do is just relax and be ourselves, unapologetically be ourselves. So the segue being, this past weekend, I filmed a video that I had been kind of, sort of, I don't want to say dreading, but I've been kind of putting off for the past number of months. As a matter of fact, I think years now. I think about it. And I'll link it probably at the end of this video too, is a reading hate comments video. So as many of you know, I have a series on my channel where my main channel, where I read comments, and it's something that I like to do. I like to, put the feedback on the screen and put it out there and respond to it in person. I think that's a really nice touch for some content to reflect back to your audience that you are, in fact, reading what their feedback is, right? And I've kept a list of hate comments and cringy comments for the past number, I would say like 2 years at this point. And I kept them in a folder, just kind of collecting them over the years. And I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I think I can finally say that I'm ready to film this video. Like, I am ready for this video to be a thing. This is real, and I'm ready. So yeah. I ended up uh, going through these hate comments and going through, like, reacting to each of them, giving my thoughts, my feedback, and for the most part, I had a great time with it. I had a lot of fun getting to read these comments and just, because they're intended to be hateful, right? That's the point of the videos. Most of them are intended to be hateful, and others are just kind of like confusing or whatever. So, um, I I kind of sat back and had fun with it because I knew that they were, that, I need to take this. I don't need to take these seriously, not at all. Like, if it was up to me, if it was like, I guess the average person, or I don't know how to describe it, but if I was just a layman, or if I was just somebody if I had, let's put it this way. If I had a normal human reaction to these comments, then I would be going on a tirade of just, well, how dare they say that to me? And I can't believe that and on, right? So I, I did, have a good time with it. And it got me to thinking kind of what we're talking about right now. It got me to thinking that if I were to take any of those comments seriously, I would be in a horrible headspace. I would be in just a downtrodden, like, out of my mind headspace of just, sadness, depression, and just feeling like the weight of the world is upon me, because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is what people think. But no, I know that people are doing it for the intent of getting a rise out of me. People are doing it for the intent to be hurtful and for the intent to be just horrible. Because some of those comments were absolutely awful, like god awful, right? So, yeah, that's an example of you don't always have to listen to feedback or take it to heart. You can sometimes have fun with it. And rest assured, I did look at those comments and think, "Huh, I wonder if they're right. Let's just say for the sake of argument that they're right, whatever the case of their comment or context of their comment. Well, I can safely say that I have disproven all of the hate comments, so that's one good thing. But um, the overall point being, no matter what you do, and I said this in the comments video as well, but no matter what you do, what you are, who you are, or how you choose to live your life, who you decide to be, and who you know that you are in your core, there's always, 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 always going to be backlash. There's always going to be an antithesis. There's always going to be an absence. There's always going to be some sort of argument against you, against who you are, what you do, what you post, and it goes on. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the most sainted person in the world. You could be the most charitable. You can be the most kind. You could be like let's just say, for the sake of hyperbole here, you're the most charitable being that's ever lived. Mother Teresa plus, right? You're going to get criticism for that because people are going to find something to say that is negative. That is how human beings are, and that is how a lot of people function. And that, at that point, is up to you to decide what to do with that information. It is up to you to decide how you take that, because only you can truly control your reaction to it. And let's just say that depending on your reaction, a certain kind of reaction will give them more power, and a certain other type of reaction will give them less or take the power away. So it's like that old additive. I can't remember exactly what the quote is, but I believe it goes something like, bitterness, the feeling of bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. If I recall correctly, that is the quote. So if I butchered it, I apologize. But that is essentially the quote that I'm thinking of is, if you're bitter towards others because of what they think or what they said to you, you're drinking the poison and they're winning. You can't do that. You cannot give these people who are giving you that negativity a platform or a leg to stand on to go about thinking that way. And they're going to think that way no matter what. It's not like you can change their mind. Now, you can continue to live better, and you can continue to live the way that you were and continue to do what you do in a much better way. But that's not to prove anything to them or anybody. It's purely just you being yourself. As a matter of fact, if you take someone's negative feedback and you end up being more empowered because of it, then that is heaping the hot coals on their head and showing them that that is not who you are and what they claim you to be, right? Again, it's not a way to disprove them. It's not just a way to disprove them, but it's a way that says you can conquer whatever they said. You are conquering more than what they claim. I believe I believe it was another Stoic quote. I can't remember who it was exactly. It might have been Epictetus, if I had to guess. You can look this up. A whole bunch of quotes this podcast, but there's another quote that I love, and I have it saved somewhere. It said, "The greatest revenge that you can get on your enemy is to live well." I'll say that again. The greatest revenge that you can ever give to your enemy is to live well. So, in other words, I'm not hurt by this. Your words don't bother me. Your claims don't bother me. What you have done does not bother me, you know? And that's honestly true. I've seen it in my own life. I've had a number of, I don't want to say a number, but I've had a few examples in my life where I have had sort of a spat with somebody, and whether it was a falling out situation or not, I've noticed that by living well, it proves them wrong. And sometimes they can't stand it. Like, I can think of a very prime example. Again, not going to use names, not going to use specific scenarios or examples, just in case said person is listening. But there is an individual that I did, in fact, have a falling out with at one time, where, uh, you know, it doesn't bother me as much as it used to, for one thing, but also I don't even remember hardly what the falling out was about. Like, it was, I imagine it was probably something ridiculous. I don't know. But anyway, um, person that I had this falling out with, and I just remember it was legitimate reasons why I cut them out of my life. But that's all I remember. Um, I continued on living. I didn't let it stop me. I didn't let it bog me down. I didn't let their words cut me to the core, right? So, and I just continued doing what I do, living well, making the content that I love, producing what I do, and just flat out, like, no contact, and I will occasionally, I know, I notice, not all the time, but I will occasionally get a comment or maybe sometimes a message or something like that from said person, and I know it's them because they've created other accounts. They've they've tried to make other accounts and tried to get in contact with me by other means and ways, but none of it's worked, right? And I know it's them, like every time that they attempt it, just by the way that they talk, right? So it's not hard to picture, it's not hard to point out, but I can tell that it bothers them. I can tell that by my living uh, this way, living well, bothers them because I don't think they can stand to see that this in fact is not bothering me, right? And I don't see a point in holding on to it. I really don't see a point in holding a grudge. I don't see a point in, entertaining any of this nonsense. I don't see a point in letting it, slow me down because what's been said has been said and what's been done has been done. So, I wipe my hands of it, you know, clap my hands off and stand up, turn around and walk out the door. And that was it. And I'm okay with that, you know? So that was just something that I wanted to, get off my chest because it's something I've been thinking about for the past week and just giving me a nice little bow and pin on the week so far. Is a nice little end to the week, but also a nice little bout of wisdom for all of you in case you needed to hear that. So point being the main takeaway here is save your time and don't worry about what your neighbor thinks, says, or does, because therein you lose production, you lose time, and you lose value. So I thought I would start out with that, and wow, I talked for 26 minutes. Oh my gosh. Well, that's what this podcast is all about, So I think we can transition to something completely different. MCFC 2026 was this past weekend. I went to Detroit and I got to see a bunch of friends. We are in the MCFC being Motor City Fur Con, in case any of you are not familiar. We're in a new location this time, and it is in downtown Detroit. And I know some of you who are from the States are probably thinking, "Ugh, downtown Detroit, scary." It actually was not bad. It was quite nice. It was very peaceful. It was a very friendly part of town. We were right on the Canadian border, going to the bridge. Like, it's right on the hotel is literally right next to the bridge, and I mean literally right next to the bridge that goes across to Canada. So we were right there, right on the water, and absolutely beautiful. The skies were clear, not a single cloud in the sky, no wind, no rain, no snow. It was warm. It's I'll say like upper 40s Fahrenheit, something like that. It was gorgeous, every day the sun was out, and oh my gosh, we just had a wonderful time. So yeah, I'm so glad. I'm really happy with this new location. I'm going to get my gripe out of the way real quick. I did not enjoy the elevator situation. Yeah. Um, Not the elevator situation did not do well. It was absolute anarchy the entire time. There was 8 elevators, so there were 2 towers that we used, the north and the south, the east and the west tower, and there, there was yeah, uh, just trying to get to your floor was an absolute nightmare. I remember at one point in the time, excuse me, at one point in the time, I did try to get to my floor, and it took about half an hour to get to my floor. And that's just me waiting for the elevator from the lobby area. So yeah, that was not fun. Um, I think my only real bout of feedback for MCFC is to get a crew on those elevators. Like, just get a person per floor, like, operating the east and the west elevators per floor, so that let's see, floor 3, 4, and 5 are like the main, and the lobby are like the main elevators, right? Um, just get a crew on those, and do some herding of cats, if you will, right? Herd the furries into the elevators. Okay, you going up or down? Going up or down? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out, and and so on and so forth. They do that at Anthrocon, they do that at A&E, they do that at MFF. There's all kinds of cons that have adopted this method, and it's pretty effective. It works out pretty well. It gets people to their floor, especially fursuiters who need priority in the line to get up to their room if they're overheating or whatever the case. And yeah, it works out very well. So that's my only real gripe, was the elevators. But other than that, the hotel, strikingly beautiful, absolutely wonderful. Loved it. Had a great time. I was there from Friday to Sunday, technically. And I saw a lot of, like I said, I saw a lot of friends. I saw you guys, saw a lot of you guys there. That was wonderful. Got to get pictures and hugs with you, and I got to enjoy my time with you, and really just had a wonderful stay. Shout out to Ace the Fed and Nyla Kitty for being excuse me. Oh my gosh, pardon me. Shout out to both of them for being wonderful hosts during the week or during the weekend, and just being just just making the rooms very comfortable, and making them keeping them sanitary, and just overall having it a wonderful time. So saw a lot of familiar faces and new ones. And I should also mention that we are sharing this hotel, and we did share the old hotel too, but we pretty much packed out the hotel that we were in before, right? Um, the old Marriott in Ypsilanti, we packed it out because we loaded it up from the top to the bottom, right? So that's partially why we're in a new hotel, because I think we overloaded the old hotel. But anyway, so sharing the rooms, not sharing the rooms, what am I talking about? Sharing the hotel spaces, the rooms in the hotel, meaning the dining area, the bar, that kind of thing, was interesting, to say the least, with normies. So at one point, there was a very large group of individuals that came through the hotel. I guess there was a volleyball tournament or something volleyball related happening over the weekend in Detroit, because all of a sudden, all of these middle school, high school, and probably elementary aged kids and families and so were coming through the hotel, and we were like, "Oh my gosh." It was like a flood of children just came walking through, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, volleyball tournaments are happening. I can't believe this is going on right now." And MCFC is happening. So it was honestly, it wasn't as awkward as it sounds. It was interesting. There were a lot of kids that were just so enamored by the furries. They were, oh man, they were taking pictures. We were filming TikToks. It was great. We were giving high fives and hugs, and just oh my gosh. And when I say families, I mean mom, dad, brother, sister, and grandma. There are a lot of larger families that were there, just just completely taking in the absolute wonderment of the furry fandom at the same time. And some of the families were, unfortunately, I should be a little more, I'm going to be cautious in saying this. Some of the families were a little more on the not very excited side of things. Some of them were very impatient, and there were a couple of instances where that I heard about. I didn't experience them personally, but there were a couple of instances of my friends and other people that I know who they described some of the families as being very rude. So, for example, one of my friends was in line on the elevator, once again, online on the elevator, to get in the elevator, and there was a family behind them, assumedly one of the volleyball families, and they were trying to get on the elevator, and the fursuiter, my friend, fursuiter, was ahead of them, and he kind of like stopped them, like, whoa, 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 I'm here first. And then the dad of this family got very vocal with him, saying things like, you people are just in the way. You people bring in your giant costumes and we can't get anywhere. And my friend responded very calmly by saying, excuse me, but we also have a right to this space here, and you have to wait in line just like everybody else. And that kind of shut the conversation down pretty quick. But yeah, just like the whole you people aspect, that was an element to this weekend. So yeah, that there was some negativity that came about it, but for the most part, I would say for the most part, the families were just like all about it. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Sadie, Jackie, whoever, get in there, get in a picture. Grandma wants a picture too, And yeah, I swear, like we were we were running into a family, and all of them wanted pictures. It was just like, okay, girls, get in there. Okay, mom and dad, get in there. Okay, grandma, get in there. And we were just standing there for like, I swear, 10 minutes just getting pictures, and it was great. So high fives, hugs, everything. It was fantastic. So um that's something I'll never forget. We shared the hotel with giant volleyball tournament groups. So yeah, those kids will have something to remember for the rest of their lives. Um, yeah, I was joking with a friend of mine. We were in the cafe area, and I was wearing my fursuit. We were just getting some late night eats, like you do. And there was I was in my suit, full suit, and there was a dad and this little kid standing behind me, right? Um, Little kid, probably like 3 years old, like really small, right? And I didn't interact with the kid or the dad at all. I just kind of was like holding my drink and just trying to get up to the till and pay for it and stuff. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw this little kid just looking at me, and he was staring at me the entire time. You know how little kids do, right? He was just staring at me, mouth open and eyes big, just like, what is that? Right? The entire time that we were in line. And I pointed it out to my red panda friend who was with me, and I just kind of tapped him. I was like, "Hey, you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And afterwards, we joked, that kid, that little kid, that 3-year-old is going to remember this, and probably will not see furries or hear about furries or anything for the next 10 plus years of his life. And then he's going to see something in real life, or he's going to see something online, and he's going to remember that moment of just staring at me, this giant fluffy plushie essentially in his eyes, and being like, where have I seen this before? Where have I seen this before? I don't know where. This seems so familiar to me. And hey, maybe that kid is a future furry. Who knows? I'm willing to bet, as a matter of fact, that probably a good amount. I'm going to say, putting it handsomely, about 30%. Let's say 30%. 30% of those kids that we saw this past weekend are probably going to end up being a furry at some point. And I'm cool with that. Like, we had a lot of families ask us, like, what is this? What are you guys doing? I've never heard of this. And then we explain it to them, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. And da, 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 it just goes on. And yeah, some of them were skeptical, like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I've never heard of this. It seems kind of weird. It's like, well, yeah, it is weird. We're not going to lie. We're just big fluffy animals. We don't care. We're weird. So, you know, yeah, I'm willing to bet that there's a healthy amount of young people, and maybe even adults, who will probably be furries at some point in the future because of this past weekend. So yeah, that was the experience for the most part. Other than getting to fursuit around a lot, and I got to, hang out with some new friends and make some new friends, catch up with some old ones. Excuse me. And went to the Fat First panel on the last day. That was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, getting back home was a bit of a trip. I excuse me. you could tell I'm still catching up on sleep, but oh my gosh, like I I can also turn this into a bit of a PSA. Um, there there happened some logistical issues in my getting home because I drove, right? It's a 3.5 hour drive, give or take, and I left very late, and that's entirely my fault. It's because I wanted to drain as much joy and entertainment and like as much of the con as I could on Sunday night before I left. So, I fursuited as long as I could, and then that was it. And just like, yeah. So, eventually I was like, okay, I have to go. I need to go. It's the responsible thing. I need to go home. So, um, I I got my stuff. I packed it in the car, and just a quick side note, I did not sleep very well during the con, and that's partially also my own fault because of my sleeping situation. It was my air mattress had a hole in it. It's a whole thing. You can imagine how that turned out. Is I woke up on the floor pretty much every day, so that's unfortunate. But anyway, so I packed my stuff in the car, and within the first hour of driving, I'm already feeling like the heaviness of my eyelids, and I'm like, "Oh, this is not good. This isn't good. I need to I need to do something here." So, I decided, and I also got some coffee, but it was not working at all. Um, I had decided, okay, if I see a hotel, I'm going to just pull in and I'm going to get like 20 minutes of sleep, something like that. Just like power nap it all the way home, right? And mind you, 3.5 hours is not a short amount of time, right? So I find a hotel, I pull in, and I knock out for a little bit. I ended up sleeping an hour and 15 minutes that first round. I was like, oh, shoot. Oh, no. And by then, it was like 3 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I should be home by now. So I got back on the road, another hour goes by, and I start to feel it again. I'm just like, eyelids heavy, breathing slowing down. I'm starting to drift a little bit on the road, and I'm like, nope, nope, I can't do it anymore. I need to find another hotel. So I pull off. I don't even know where I am at this point. I'm just like completely, I am lost to time at this point, and find another hotel, fall asleep, and I wake up and I had slept another hour and 20 minutes. I was like, "Oh, no." And at this point it's like 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, "Okay, I need to stop messing around. I need to like just commit to getting this done." So, I drove the rest of the way home, and thankfully I had gotten enough sleep and energy to be able to make the trek home and in the last final go. And I did it. And I got home, I swear, at like 6:30 in the morning. So what should have taken 3.5 hours took about 6 hours to get home. That's all naps included, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. So I dragged my stuff in. It's 6 in the morning. I can see the sun coming up. And then I'm just like, okay, do I go into work or do I call off and use a sick day? I think I made the right choice. I ended up calling off and using a sick day because there was no way I was going in my condition. I was just way too tired from everything. So I called off, and I spent most of Monday sleeping, like rejuvenating sleeping. And let me tell you, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful to just get enough sleep and be like, okay, I am good. I think I woke up somewhere around like 4 in the afternoon, something like that, and I was so refreshed. I could not believe it. I was like, "Yes." So I know I made the right call. And yeah, my dear and sainted boss was worried. He was like, "Are you sick?" And I was like, "No, I'm just tired." And he's like, "Okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow." So it worked out. That's why you have sick time, everybody. It's not just for being sick. It is to take care of yourself. Okay, so take care of yourself. Please do not drive drowsy. It is not becoming. It will not do anything good for you. So yeah, that was the adventure home, and I have to say, I'm happy that I decided to take matters into like take matters seriously and like pull over and sleep because I needed that. So whenever you feel tired on the road, if you're driving a long distance, don't be afraid to pull over. And by the way, hotel parking lots are free and nobody's going to question you. It's a lot better than rest stop, I'll tell you what, because you get a lot of sketchy characters at a rest stop, but if you pull into a hotel parking lot, you're probably better off because it's a more private property and no one's going to question you being there. So just, just knock out for a little bit. You blend right in, no big deal. So yeah, that was MCFC, and there's definitely a lot more, but I think I'll let the convention video speak for itself. That will be going up hopefully next weekend, once I get it edited and done. I'm really looking forward to all of you seeing it. It turned out, I think it's going to turn out really nice. I think it's going to be a good show of what I got to do at the con, and I'm really excited for you all to take a look. So once we get that underway, then we'll post that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you think. Ow, Archie. Archie and his biting. Sir, I know that you're there. Okay, I will take care of you in a minute. So that's going to be the podcast, everybody. A nice little bout of wisdom podcast, and a nice little tell of adventure from this past weekend. And I'm glad that, honestly, I'm so glad that I got to see all of you who were at the con this past weekend. And I keep saying it, but it is the absolute joy of my life and the biggest highlight of the con that I get to experience it with you and see you, and just be able to meet you in person. And it really does mean the most to me when I get to see you in person, because getting to meet you and put a face to the name on the screen is just, it does true magic in my eyes, and I'm so glad that we have that relationship, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the future. My next con is TFF, or Texas Furry Fiesta, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there. So anyway, as always, remember the Latin phrase, sic Parvis Magna. Remember greatness from small beginnings. Remember where you started, and remember where you're going on your journey and on your path, because only you can determine that. Let's never forget there's greatness in every step, whether you find it or whether you create it. And don't forget that there are people who love you and those who brought you up and who continue to stand by you today. Be sure to let them know that you love and care about them, because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And in the same way, be you, be yourself. Don't let anyone ever tell you who you can and can't be or what you can and can't do. That is for you to decide. And there is only one you, as we talked about. There's never been anyone like you. There will never be anyone like you in the future, and there has never been anyone like you in the past. So be unequivocally, unapologetically, and unwaveringly you, because everybody else is taken. This is your life, and the world needs to see you for who you are. So until next time, everybody, this is Samson Kitty Fox. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. And thank you for all that you do and all of your support. So love you. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Meow meow.